Okay, and we're up, man.
We're live. We're
We
live.
live. So, well, I'll just go right up. What do you think about it? Did you like it? It's your core gut. Did you like Rise of Derpwalker?
It was the best Disney Star Wars movie made, but with that being said, it was kind of the best one they've made so far, which wasn't hard to do. But overall, it was entertaining. It didn't give you enough time to like get bored, really.
Yeah. So you like that even over Rogue One, which was the safest one.
Yeah, because Rogue One it's not that I didn't like it. It was just kind of like it. I saw it one time and never felt the need to go back and rewatch it. I mean, I like the Darth Vader scene at the end, but like you could tell that was thrown in at the last minute of, what they were doing. It was just, it's what it was. And I still haven't seen Solo, so I might like Solo better, but I thought this one was definitely on par with Force Awakens. It felt like the same type of movie. Like it felt like it fit with that movie.
Yeah.
As opposed to Last Jedi, which, when you got two different directors doing two totally different things, I mean, I guess that's what you get.
No, there could have been a basic synergy, and there wasn't. Instead, it was a battle of heads, basically, fighting. Even though it always sounded, from what you would hear from the writings or whatever, that he okayed this and this and this. I mean, Jar Jar Abrams okayed Ruin Johnson's his work, and so Ruin could just shit on it. And then Jar Jar is going to change it. I mean, that's what we saw. We see the finished product. We don't see them arguing or whatever the hell it was. Like, what was it, Dark Fate with James Cameron and that director? They clearly didn't like each other, and that was, obvious and evident in any of the news stories. But my opinion of Rise of Derpwalker, it's the weakest one to me because I actually like Last Jedi. I'm a freaking weirdo. And I really like Force Awakens a lot. But I would say Last Jedi was first, then Force Awakens, and then a pretty good bit down was Rise, because there was so much shit going on. You couldn't even catch a breath. And people calling it a video game, yeah, it felt a lot like a video game. I felt that, you couldn't get really invested with anybody, and it felt contrived, and it felt forced too. It felt like it was forced.
A lot going on.
Yeah, it felt.
I mean, I noticed that the first of the movie, literally as soon as the credits are over, we have Kylo killing some people, getting a map, going to the Emperor. The Emperor. I mean, all of this within like less than 2 minutes of film. I mean, within the first 2 minutes, you've gone from a totally different planet and him having a conversation with the Emperor. It was like, holy cow, this is fast. I mean, it was like, you knew Emperor was going to be there because of the trailer, but it's like, they didn't waste no damn time. I mean, it was like, I don't even think there was a single line in the movie, but when he's at that first planet, grabs that thing, immediately. I mean, it's just like, bam, 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 bam. It was like, oh, we got a lot to do in a very little period of time to do it. That's what it felt like. Just, it was going.
Yeah, I forgot to turn the Devil's third and now we've turned it and he's doing nothing. But anyway, I ain't worried about what the hell's going on there. Yeah, I guess the point of doing all that was, I don't know if you remember that Poe didn't meet Rey until literally in the end of Last Jedi. So they haven't had their, little heroes journey together. It's like as soon as The Force Awakens ended, what was it? Finn was in, he was hurt.
He was at Dakoba.
Yeah. And then Rey was on the island, and then Poe, I forgot what the hell Poe was. He might have been with all the rebels or whatever. But they were already separated, and so Ryan would have to have introduced them. He would have to do the same thing that he would have to introduce them, build them up together, and then split them off because the middle arc's supposed to be the bad arc, right?
Yeah.
And so they didn't do that. So they have to do the basically the Jabba Return of the Jedi thing, but we're going to do it over 15 planets. We have like 25 Jabbas in it.
Oh, it's like the first thing of the movie that kind of like set me back of like was they started arguing. Like you remember, like all three of them were arguing, and it was like I can't get invested in these three because one of them probably barely even knows Rey, and Finn is like, I don't know if he has feelings for Rey or you're not invested in. It's like it seems like she's got the most screen time investment. And the other two, I swear I was just waiting for them to be a couple because it's like They really were like, it was almost like they were an old married couple, you know, and it was just like, this is weird, but like, then they started arguing, and I was like, oh God, are we going to do this? And then, of course, like 5 seconds later, we're on a totally different planet doing a totally different thing, so it didn't really matter. It's like anything that you were just kind of like, well, this is kind of slow, or this is, you didn't have time to even think about if it wasn't good or slow, because it was like 5 seconds later, we're off doing something else. Fuck that. You know, we're off to something totally different.
Yeah, and it felt like that those two were actually not particularly needed. They had arcs in this one, but they didn't feel like they were necessary at all.
There was a lot of not necessary characters in this movie.
I guess I mean, what about Claude? You notice Claude, right? They say, hey, Claude, get off the Millennium Falcon. Who the fuck's Claude? I don't know.
You know, honestly, I forgot he was even there until you just mentioned it. I literally forgot that, because I was like, who is this guy? Never to be seen again. Like, he just kind of was there, and I totally forgot about him being on there. I mean, it's like, it's just so much stuff was thrown at you, like people. You're just like, who is this? What planet is this? I just started looking at it like desert planet. It's not Tatooine, but it might as well be Tatooine. Whatever that one they went to was, you know, it's like, whatever. It's desert, you know.
Everybody calls it the Burning Man planet.
I thought it was mardigra planet. I was like, and I was thinking like, oh, man, are we going to have this whole MacGuffin thing where they're hunting for this thing for majority of the movie, and they're going to spend like 40 minutes on this planet wasting time? Nope, they're not, because it ain't going to matter. By the time you get bored of the scenery, they're off to another planet. So you didn't have time to like even dislike what was going on, because it was just like, nope, on to something else. It was almost like they were like had somebody. It's like watching a play that everybody's running behind on, and there's like a guy on the side of the scene being like, speed it up, get it over. We got to get moving, you know. It was a lot.
Yeah, they were jumping through freaking light speed, like through entire sets of planets, flying through shit. You're like, what the fuck is this? And then the first thing I thought was, Angry Joe tried to explain it. It's like, why the hell did TIE fighters got light speed? Because I don't remember them having light speed ever. In fact, it was specifically said that they didn't. It's like, maybe you could say that the New Order ones did. Angry Joe said they were the wake of the Millennium Falcon's light speed thing, so they could get into it. I'm like, what the fuck?
Well, didn't it used to be, and maybe I'm just remembering this from like some of the expanded universe, but didn't the X-Wings, you had to have an astromech droid to do light speed? And even though like later on in the movie, you know, she ends up in the X-Wing, but there wasn't no astromech there, and she got there pretty quick. So I just remember that being a thing, but maybe that was expanded universe I'm remembering.
You've done added another plot hole. Angry Joe released a video today with 40. He said the top 40 plot holes. You forgot him. You got 41. He didn't mention that.
I just remember that being, and I'm fairly certain it was in the books because I did a lot of the audio books of those, and I remember it being like, oh yeah, it can go to light speed, but you got to have an astromech. That was the whole point of the astromech being in it, you know, as far as like the targeting and all. Like one of those, why would you got all this technology, why would you have these one ships that have
need a droid
spot?
Yeah,
exactly. And that was kind of one of their things. And like I said, I'm sure that was like expanded universe got thrown out, but I just remember, but yeah, I remember, you know, them talking about in A New Hope, there was no light speed on those TIE fighters because they were trying to figure out why that one was out there all by itself, you know? So just, you know, it's a lot going on. I mean, not to mention all the Force stuff, you know, there was some Force stuff of like, God, man, there's a lot of Force stuff in the other ones. I mean, granted, you had flying Leia, but you know, it's almost like, oh, you need the Force to do this? We can make the Force do that.
Yeah, it became like that, or the dyad thing where they could do any fucking thing they wanted.
Yeah, I was like, so I mean, it was like, oh, there's a dyad in the Force, like these two are connected. It's like, if that's the truth, wouldn't like Vader and Palpatine been connected? Like, you know what I mean? Kind of like, or is it
depends
just
on if they were, you know, hot for each other.
I mean, you know, Palpatine obviously was hot for somebody, even though it never explains, you know, how that went around. But I mean,
listen, sir, he has caved many times. Okay,
he must have, man. It's just,
it's a special kind of dyad.
Yeah, he, yeah. They never did touch on that either. How I mean, you get the impression of like he's got these like clones of, you see the clones of what's his name, a Snope, and then it's like, so you get the impression like, oh, he probably cloned himself and had like, expanded universe style, transferred his body over, like, didn't actually like him physically didn't, survive that, but it never really clears it up either. At the same time, they just kind of be like, they leave it kind of faded of like, yeah, fill in the rest how you feel.
I have died many times. That was it. That's your explanation. Fuck
yeah.
It. And so when he dies at the end of this one,
it almost feels like, well,
it's just going to come back. Him against place didn't even get blown up that time. So,
yeah. And he had, and that was the thing, all those people in the shrouds, it was like, are these supposed to be like Sith ghosts? Or are these like followers? Or are these like millions of clones he's made of himself? If you stop long enough to like think about anything in that movie, you lose where you're at in that movie, because 5 seconds later, they're doing something totally different. So It's kind of like you can't stop. I guess it was like, if we throw so much shit at the audience, they won't be able to stop and think about how ludicrous some of this stuff is.
What I think is he thinks of the scene first. The Death Star, the Star Destroyer's riding to the ground. He thinks that would be cool. It's like, what if you have to fight a bunch of Death Stars and they all have Death cannons from the Star, the Star Destroyer with the Death Star cannons on them. They rise from the freaking dirt, man. They just rise up. I'm like, okay, well, where'd the fuck they come from? Some General Pryor said he's conjured them. I'm like, okay, so the
Emperor, what about all the people serving on them?
They got conjured too, man.
Conjured up the people, conjured up the ships, and it was a lot. He's like, like what's he been doing down there building Legos like for the past what's the time difference? Like, what is it? Almost like
30 years.
30 years. That's what I was thinking, about 30, 40 years. So God, they made Mark Hamill look even older in this one as the ghost than it did in the previous two. He's not that old looking in real life. It was like, dude, he won't even look super old. But I did love the scene where he shows up just to basically shit on the last movie. That was the whole purpose of that scene. I thought he would do a little bit more, obviously Force Ghost can do a lot, but no, it was just basically to, talk about how stupid it is to throw away a lightsaber and how stupid it is to be, wrong. And it was just, he was just there solely just to shit on the last movie.
But freaking Kylo throws his lightsaber away in this movie.
It's like
he's just gonna laser blast like his dad do.
I like how it's like, and then when he goes off to fight the other people, it's like, damn, I know it was red, but maybe I should have just held on to that thing for just, a minute. Before you just throw it away. It's like, I get that it's like, I killed a lot of people. My God, man, look at freaking Luke's lightsaber that he ended up using later on. It's like, you know how many people that thing ended up killing before he changed to a red one? It's not like it should be symbolic of like, and I guess they did try to do that with symbolic of like, this was Leia's lightsaber. This was Luke's lightsaber. Let's not forget that Luke's lightsaber killed a bunch of kids at one point.
You're talking about Anakin's, but Anakin's
exactly. The Anakin / Luke / leather piece of thing they put over it to make it hers now, which was like, I was kind of surprised at that. I guess they felt they need, of course she was going to rebuild it. I just thought she would maybe use parts from it to rebuild her own at some point between those movies and kind of do like a Return of the Jedi. I've got my own lightsaber now.
Yeah.
As opposed to letting me. As opposed to putting a little bit of duct tape around it and being like good as new.
I'm surprised she was still using it. I thought it would have been useless and then had to use Leia's and then maybe combine them at the end. I don't know. I guess Kylo couldn't, they couldn't double saber then. But you just start laughing when you think about this.
Yeah, exactly. Because I remember like I left the theater and I'm sitting there and I'm like, it was entertaining. It was a lot because it was a lot of shit going on. You know what I mean? It was kind of like, well, they did, it was a lot of action going on. And I was like, well, there wasn't really any slow points, but I was like, oh, if me and Steven are going to talk about this, I need a few days to process it. And once you start processing it, that's when you're just like, it's like it's like somebody took a bunch of cut scenes and just stapled them together and called it a movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Kind of
yeah.
like, and I can see why people would say it's very video game like. Yeah, it is. If you watch all the cut scenes and you don't show anything that's happening in between, because that would be the gameplay portion of it where everything makes sense. 'Cause it was just, I mean, that's like my brother-in-law asked me, he was like, what was Finn going to tell Rey when they were sinking into quicksand? And I'm like, who the fuck knows? I mean,
I had an idea.
I mean,
People,
the simple, what is you just spring to like, oh, I love you, or maybe
I didn't see that. What I saw was he was clearly getting force sensitive at the very least, and maybe he would be a Jedi eventually himself. I thought he was going to tell her that. Apparently, that's what I think I read somewhere. That's what Abrams' intention for it was. But of course, a lot of people are going to say, well, he, is that he loves Rey, but he's already has two freaking interests. He has Jana and Rose, who just gets the side shoulder. Okay, you study those stormtrooper imperial diagrams. All right, you stay home and study. All right,
you stay home and guard the base is what that was. I mean, it was that she got the Jar Jar treatment from Attack of the Clones.
Severe.
That's all that was. It was like, we're gonna have you here, but you ain't doing anything important. Because you could tell she clearly had the hots for him, and say with the ones later. That's like, I'd forgotten all about the scene about the people, the old stormtroopers and the girl. I couldn't even tell you what any of the other ones looked like, but I remember her. And that whole scene was weird because it was like, they were so unnecessary, because they get there and they're like, oh, it's too dangerous to go now. We'll wait till tomorrow. And I'm like, well, I guess we're going to have some, character arc or development in this.
No.
Rey's jumping on the boat and going, oh crap, we can't let her go wrong. So they all jump on a boat, and then they all end up freaking going, and nobody. It's like, well, I guess it wasn't that dangerous. I guess they were just overreacting. I mean, it's like, it's too dangerous, but not really. It's just inconvenient. I mean,
it's not explained when Rey and Kylo start fighting in the Emperor's room, right? But they just end up on the water somewhere. And then so apparently this water isn't as bad as the other water, but Rey was clearly jumping and climbing for like 5 minutes to get there. But, you just take the boat there. It's a shortcut.
Yeah. It's just, did you get confused by any of the stuff when they were going back and forth when they weren't in the same room? But like you remember they kind of had a quick lightsaber fight when she was in his, his solid white Vader, abode.
I didn't get confused because they took a second when he was in the Burning Man planet to turn the place to night.
Yeah.
All right, and I saw that. Okay, so this is like a melding between him and her. Like the area itself is melding. What he should have done immediately though is she has that freaking dagger in her hand while they're fighting. So he doesn't realize that.
He don't even realize that.
Yeah, he's in her pimp pad or whatever until the Darth Vader little thing gets blown up. But no, even in the trailer, I knew she had the dagger on, so I know she has a dagger in her hand. And he didn't see that. He didn't see that at all. Even that's a big ass dagger. And obviously, she wouldn't be able to really grip her saber with two hands. You should have known that if you're a sword fighting guy. It's like, well, you should immediately look at her hands and realize that she was dual wielded. Could have stabbed his ass, man.
Well, clearly he knew that Chewie was not dead, just like everybody else in the movie. It's one of those. Wouldn't he just put two and two together and been like, well, shit, they're going to be stupid enough to come against this Star Destroyer and try to break him out? Or maybe he could have sensed her. You get the impression he can sense her, but it's like he sucks at it. It's like he needs a lot of hints once he sees her.
I kind of get the feeling that, well, he says he's pushing her. He's not really hell bent. He wants her to get her emperor powers. I mean, but even then, you're reading too much down. You're trying to interpret it. Silliness, fucking bling bling cutscene, and you're trying to give a reason or explanation for dumb shit. But he was trying to push her to, and that's why he gets the force lightning out of her. But of course, now what you're thinking of is like, okay, so Palpatine's get Force lightning. Is he it has to be a Palpatine? Because now you think of who else has used it besides Yoda?
Dooku
in the movies. Dooku used it.
Yeah, Dooku used it because he used it against
Anakin.
Anakin, and Yoda. I mean, it was in it's been a long time since Attack of the Clones, but I remember him using it. So yeah, they could have made it Dooku. It could have made him relate. Could have made her related to Dooku.
Right,
Why Dooku have to be related? Why does she have to be related to anybody? I mean, really, why not? But
I liked the way that her being a nobody. I really liked that, and so to say that now she has to be a Palpatine, not only to just undo that, but to help explain why she's powerful, I thought was just kind of shit. And
was that his only granddaughter? I mean,
his clones could also have daughters. There's fucking Palpatines fucking everywhere, dude.
They're all over the place, man. All he had to do was
there.
send him over to like freaking just take on Lando as like his son-in-law, and just like he was good to go. He'd have millions of them. I mean, they'd be all over the place. They'd be stumbling around. Just to be like, you couldn't go to a freaking system without tripping over a grandkid.
Should have left it alone. It was working. But go back into it. Fuck it up. Just because Ruin Johnson ruined my shit, I'm gonna ruin his shit.
Fuck his shit up, man. I'm gonna have Luke Skywalker catch the lightsaber and be like, I'm not throwing this shit away ever again. Have him have a clean shave or a nice haircut and a trimmed up beard in the final scene. Bullshit. His hair is going to be even longer this time. It's Force Ghost. I guess their hair grows out further. Maybe it's one of those like when people die, their fingernails look longer after they dry up because of their skin or something. Who knows? I don't know. And where the hell's he been, man? He obviously is he like destined to that planet? He's like, I can't leave this planet now. Well, no, because he showed up at the end when they were on Tatooine.
Yeah. He's got force telepathy, okay? He can just fucking do the illusionist, man. He's a force illusionist.
Trickster.
Let's talk about the final. We're kind of scattered out, but fuck it. Let's talk about how the final space battle sucked, dude. I thought it was crap.
It was something to be going on in the background of the rest of it. It's like, in Return of the Jedi, you had two main things going on. You had Emperor Emperor Vader and Luke. Yeah, you're right. You had three. You had three things. And they all felt like they were fairly and equally important. I mean, I guess you could say like Vader, Luke was a little bit more important, but it didn't have the screen time that the rest of it did. It was like it kind of would just filled in. This felt like we need some shit going on for everybody else while we have the Kylo, Rey, Palpatine stuff going on. That's what it felt like. Because it was like, let's ride these horses down there. Now we're going to shoot up this thing. And the whole thing was like, what kind of lost me was, they had to think, they can't all go to hyper or get out of the atmosphere if we get rid of this tower. And the guy was like, well, fuck that. Let's put the tower, let's transmission it over to our ship, which sounds like a good idea. But once they took over, destroyed it on that ship, why not just send it right back down to that tower? And then it's like, crap, now we got to go there. And then if they go down there, send it to another ship. And then just be like, they never freaking get it destroyed because you'd be constantly just...
Every ship. How hard could it fucking be? Because the rebellion...
They didn't have enough floppy disks. That's why.
The rebellion said that they could just follow Rey because Rey had the Pathfinder, so they could just follow her, how she went in. Okay, well... If you're, monitoring them as the Imperials or whatever, don't you just do the reverse of that to get out? Oh, and on top of that, one of them did get out and blow up a planet. So just follow his way.
Oh, yeah. Well, clearly more of them got out because if you noticed at the end of the movie when they were doing their, Return of the Jedi wrap up, they were showing them over planets. Like one of them was over Endor.
That might have been First Order. I'm not sure.
Oh, so them blowing up those ships made every ship blow up?
Well, I think the thing is that everybody went, and then, all of the Alliance ever all of everybody who isn't the Sith went and blowed up everything. I'm guessing because I mean, how many damn ships showed up? 75 billion.
Billion ships. It's like, dude, man, it's like if you had that many people being like, you could have took them all out without help. I mean, you know, like you didn't need all the like the Emperor doing his electrical lights, you know, fantasy show up in the air. It's like there was like a kabillion ships showed up, and I guess it gave them a chance to show people that were in the movie that you'd forgotten about 5 minutes after they showed up, like the whole girl where you know they were the one that was like the I guess I don't know if she was a bounty hunter. Pose girl. We'll just call her Pose girl. But like I had forgotten all about that. I was sitting there trying to go over in my head like where all the movie went, and I had totally forgot about them going somewhere just to get 3PO's brain wiped, you know, for a minute. And it was like, oh yeah, they did do that. Like I remember them wiping his brain. I just forgot they totally went to another planet. They were on planet so little that you couldn't tell that they were even different planets at this point.
Yeah. That was the one that the Star Destroyer blew up to make an example. So she could have. The thing was, they needed to show her again because otherwise the audience would have felt that she would have died. Had they went back and watched the movie 14 times,
I was about to say,
she existed.
Remember she freaking. It was like I remember that planet getting blown up. I'd forgotten everybody on it. That's like the people on the Mardigra planet in the desert. It was like they were there and gone so fast. I thought it was funny that they fell in quicksand because I was like, dude, I hadn't seen somebody fall in quicksand since like, you know, the 1966 Batman TV shows or like, you know, growing up like on Gilligan's Island. It's like, dude, they have quicksand. You
Indiana
know,
Jones 4, I think they fell in this shit.
I mean, it's like you kind of forget that, like, you know, as a kid, you're like always like, is that quicksand? Because you thought it was out there everywhere because every TV show would have like somebody falling in quicksand. But luckily, all you had to do is just fall to the bottom of it and you were okay. And then you just crawl around in a cave. You know, just
and you'll be there with that ship that no one's fucking noticed. That has your MacGuffin and stuff you need in it.
A MacGuffin, not the MacGuffin, because there was a lot of MacGuffins.
The latest MacGuffin.
It was the MacGuffin of the next 10 minutes. Because I swear to God, it was just like. And then I liked how finally when she finally finds that one spear, it's like Luke points out to her, "Oh, you've got everything here." It's like, "Oh yeah, I flew this plane here." That had it in it because he's already been there, and she's like, I guess I was too stupid to realize that it's inside the plane. Luckily, I didn't burn it like everything else.
He just takes the Sith fucking artifact out that worked in the New Order TIE fighter for some reason. He just puts it in the X-wing from the Alliance 30 years ago.
No, here's what's weird is like. How good were the freaking electronics back then? Because that blown up Death Star, there was like an electric door that opened up for her in the throne room. And I'm like,
I interpreted that as the Force opened the door. That's the way I thought it.
Oh, so the Force wanted her to go in there and see her evil self, like Luke in the cave.
Yeah, that's what I thought was going on. You just
let's go with that because that makes more sense than I was thinking. The electronics in this place still work. I mean, that dude's ship. How long had that dude's ship been there? And it was like, yeah, it works. You know, they just get in it, fly off at it.
It's got 1,000 years of solar power and that desert planet built up.
Yeah, I mean, just wally that shit together and go on about your business. I mean. And then that was when they had the new droid. And I didn't mind the new droid, the one that showed up that actually had a voice. I mean, clearly he had been.
I liked him.
I thought he was kind of cool. You know, you got the impression that he was like, you know, a beaten, abused child where he like backs off everybody. But, you know, he was kind of cool, you know. Not quite as cool as like the R2-D2 that has full-sized arms and legs in the Mandalorian show. But, you know.
I haven't seen that. Well, you haven't seen Solo, so you haven't seen L3. Well, her name spells out as Leet. I guess it's L33T or whatever it is. Yeah, she'll annoy the hell out of you, bro.
It's just weird. It's like there's a scene in Mandalorian where it's like they have this R2 unit and it goes to stand up and it's got like full-size arms and legs, but like the R2 unit is the chest and head. And it was like, wow, that looks really fucked up for some reason. I mean, it was neat, but really fucked up looking.
I'm just glad that they're going to go somewhere different because they don't need to be doing what they're doing right now. There's more setup for an episode 10 than when, you know, Last Jedi let episode 9 for a setup. So, you know, let's just keep going, making the other one.
Well, that's the thing is they're like, this is the end of the Skywalker trilogy, and it's like, is it really? I mean, my God, she stole the dead people's identity at the end. I figured she was just going to start living there or something. You'd be like,
Let's list out what all she got, okay? So she's got the lightsaber. She's got the Millennium Falcon. She's got the X-Wing, okay? She had Han Solo for a dad.
Yeah.
She had Luke for a master. Yoda never talked to her, but she had the look. Yoda did help her get the damn Jedi freaking archive, so she has all of the forbidden knowledge.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about that. She had those books. I knew she had them at the end of the movie. It just didn't dawn on me that he was burning that stuff. I guess she stole them or something.
Now, I think if I remember right, Yoda probably knew that she was guy already got them books, then blew the shit up. And so
he was covering her tracks.
What else she got? She's got all of the Jedi in her, of course.
And the Sith.
She's got all of the Sith.
All the Jedi. She's become like Alice from the Resident Evil series on the movies, where it's like she's like the superwoman of everything. I mean, and she's technically had Leia as a trainer, also. I mean, it's
/ mentor. She had it all going on, man, and she had a boyfriend. Who was a fuck up but loved her.
Yeah. Well, all couples have fights and get stabbed in the chest and then heal them back up and say, "I'm sorry, baby, I didn't mean to beat you." And he goes back to her like a beaten housewife.
It kill your dad figure.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I'm sorry we killed our father figure.
I knew he was going to die. He had to die. You killed Han Solo. You can't keep him alive. I mean, I knew he was going to redeem himself. Even as far back as Force Awakens, like he could probably redeem himself, but he has to die. It ain't even an option.
Yeah,
he has to get killed. It was funny. Is like he uses the Force healing to heal her ass back. She ain't even got time to do that. He just fucking disappears, said fucking him out.
Oh, he died of a broken heart, like his grandmother and his mama. I mean, it was weird. It was like, because I remember, like, I mean, at least they had Leia disappear later, because like you knew, like, oh, she's gonna disappear, but she didn't disappear. It's like apparently they were the Sophia of the bunch was sitting there, watching over her corpse, while Rose was guarding the base, I guess. And then she does disappear, and it was like, well, I guess they were waiting for that moment where he dies. He just kind of like, you got the feeling like, oh, everything's gonna be okay now, but you knew in the back of your head he's dying, and then he just kind of looks like, oh, and then he just dies out of nowhere. Kind of like her. I guess the explosion killed her, but it was kind of like, okay, I think they just needed something for him to do so he could die. And like, I didn't really. I mean,
well, if you return from the dead, you kind of got the whole Greek tragic thing that I talked about last time. You can get that going for you too. So if you're now, you can either be Jesus. I mean, on your when you're not healing people up.
Well, it was so. Well, that's like the thing is like when she healed him, he kind of looked at her like, "Oh my God, you could do that." And it's like later, it was like, "Oh, I'll just do the same thing." It's like, wouldn't you have to learn how to do that?
Not in the dyad, you don't, dude.
Oh, the Chinese dyad or whatever,
Yeah. That's a triad. We could add someone else in there later on. The Chinese triad. We'll put Donnie Yen from Rogue One in there. He can see. They'll let him see.
No, I think Donnie Yen will be like, give me another Ip Man movie. It totally destroyed Star Wars in China on the box office.
I'm sure it did. I was not that impressed by that first one, but I mean that's a side rant. But I know you really liked it.
I liked the first one. The other, I think I saw the next two, and I kind of got lost because they started making so many of them. I think some of them didn't even have them. They were supposed to be when he was younger or something. Anywho, yeah, like I said, side discard on that. I did notice on the Millennium Falcon they brought back the rounded satellite dish, which I thought was kind of weird because I was like, was that just like, it used to be that way.
It was. I think it got damaged at the Salt Planet when they were going through. Remember they chased the TIE fighters off. I think that's when it fell off.
You're probably right. But what is weird is, my God, how hard is it to land that plane? I swear to God, every time they landed it, it crashed somewhere. Like when it crashed on the planet where the old Death Star was, it's like they crash landed. It's like, was there a problem with it? I mean, because they didn't go into there's their problem.
It just says landing gear don't work. Let's wreck it. I think that Poe might have a little bit of Leon Kennedy in him. He just crashed.
Don't ever get anywhere near like a vehicle with him in it.
That shit was on fire. They just fixed it up in 5 minutes, fly back off. It was on fire all over. It was everywhere on fire. Even Chewbacca couldn't this screw goes there, that screw goes there, man.
I expected that ship to go up in that movie at some point, but
no, this is what happened. I think I told you. They blew that shit up. I think it might have Leia, Chewie, C-3PO, R2-D2, Adam, and Lando all in it. I think it had them all in it, and they blew it up. And then the damn Tessanies was so pissed off at that they walked out. You can kill people, but you cannot kill that ship. It's something special about the Millennium Falcon, and it's not even you can destroy the Star Trek Enterprise over and over again. People know that there's more than one. You cannot blow up the Millennium Falcon. It's the only one, and so I can't even think of another. In Solo it's new and it has this cargo bay where up at the front it doesn't have the little 2 prongs because it's got cargo in it. But it's still the Millennium Falcon there. In fact, he makes it the Millennium Falcon because he gets it all fucked up. But I can't even think of anywhere else. Dash Rendar had something that looked similar to it in Shadows of the Empire. You got to go expanded universe stuff, and then and that god awful Rebel Assault 2, fake Luke Skywalker drives fake Millennium Falcon. But that's it. It's you can't blow the shit up. It's fucking has any. That's why, it has to go to Rey at the end because she has to get everything good.
Yep, she gets all the goodies. She never got Luke's green lightsaber, which I was kind of like half expecting that to show up somewhere, but that would have been cool to see. That was my favorite Luke Skywalker lightsaber, was that green one.
Because it was so cool looking, man.
Yeah, it was different. It was like, it just had, and they showed it in that backstory section of Last Jedi. He's like,
that looked good.
Yeah,
not Last Jedi. I thought that looked pretty good. No, the one where they did where Leia and him were fighting, that looked goofy.
Yeah, it you could tell that they stayed on there. It's like they were real careful about not showing it too much because your brain would start picking apart what looks goofy about it. Yeah. I mean, maybe if they weren't wearing helmets, it wouldn't have looked as goofy, but it looked like they just had some people doing stuff and they just put their face over it. You know what I'm saying? It looked kind of kooky.
But most of the visuals of the movies I thought this movie is really damn good. When Rey gets out of the TIE fighter and walks towards the Emperor, that shit looks fucking incredible. Let me see some other things where. The end of Star Destroyer, man. I don't know if you noticed. I noticed because I have a black tile for a kitchen, and I cannot get that goddamn thing clean. Those damn stormtroopers. Oh my God, they had Mr. Clean that shit. Every single one of them must be Mr. Clean. It was immaculate. Must have special
boots. They got them boots with the cleaners on it, so when they walk across it, it cleans the floor. Gotta be. Because to me, I think my favorite part of the whole movie, as far as like a sequence, was them going to get Chewie, rescue Chewie. Because I thought
I liked it. I liked it a lot.
That was probably the best because the visuals look good. It really reminded me of A New Hope, which is pretty much exactly what it was anyway. But it visually looked really good with like a more updated, fight. But God dang, everything was shiny. So I mean, Palpatine must have like built some things to last. Was that one of his? No, that was a different one.
No, that was the New Order one.
That was that. I got him confused because he made like 9 million of them. I guess he was pumping them out like Lego kits.
If you follow his damn, that was the first order, so he made that. Then the final order. We're the final order. We're going retro. All right. We're going. Spent too much on the damn floors of the freaking first order. It was too shiny. Snoke's throne room had too much work on his aprons and his fucking robes. It had spent too much money.
Like none of that shit. That shit was a waste of time. We're not doing that anymore. You think by then Palpatine would be like, cause you know, he's like, oh, I created Snoke. So it's like Snoke, like they set that up to be exactly like Return of the Jedi. Like he gets killed. You think Palpatine would have looked at that and been like, I am never, ever setting myself up in that situation again. As he sets himself up in that same damn situation, it's like, God damn it, I need to stop fucking with these guys and just start killing them. You know, no more of this, like, you know, I mean, it's like, you know, they kind of force heal him, and he's like, oh, instead of being 500 years old, I'm 450 years old now. So, you know what? Fuck y'all. I'm just going to kill all y'all. And it's like, yeah, that's probably what you should have done to begin with. You know, he had his nice red, nice looking shirt underneath his robes. You know, he was ready to go.
Well, you know, I do play a wizard in Diablo, and yo, bro, that freaking damn homing chain lightning that, you know, goes like freaking 7,000-mile radius, blows up just the enemies you want to hit.
Only the enemies you want to hit. It was like, you know, he knew exactly what was going on.
Each little tendril of lightning aimed.
Exactly. You know, and visually, yeah, it looked cool, but at the same time, you're like, this is bullshit.
This is stupid.
This is like really, really stupid. You know, luckily, you know, it's like they, you know, Indiana Jones's face off, like, you know, Raiders of the Lost Ark, right, just melted that shit. I could have sworn that they just reused the footage from it, you know, just being like, is that melting? It was weird though with the whole like I said before about like when they would be fighting, it was kind of weird when they were like interacting with each other, mind welding. Like she gives him the lightsaber. You get the impression he was only about 20 foot away, but whatever. You know, it wasn't like he was on a different planet, but
yeah,
I guess they had some.
I like that. I like that. Some people don't, but I thought that was cool.
I thought it was a neat, interesting thing. I thought it was way better than space flying like Leia. I mean, if you're going to start adding force skills, I mean, why not have a force heal thing? It makes sense. I mean, I guess, you know, none of it was ever over the top, you know.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to.
And if you just say that it's just a magic system, how many magic systems have healing? Every damn game is. So I mean,
every force system in a game had force healing in it, I think, you know, even all the way back to Super Star Wars and stuff. So it's kind of like, you know, I didn't have a problem with that.
I think a lot of people was like, really run more damn thing Rey could do. And then if you go back and look and say, what if Obi-Wan could just healed up Anakin, or, you know, Anakin could make sure that Padme wasn't going to die, all of that. But, you know, fuck it. It's the dyad. They had to have a dyad, you know. You only do it with a dyad, all right?
I was surprised they just didn't call it, like, you know, the MacGuffin. There's a MacGuffin in the Force. You know, it just, I mean, he might as well just said it. I sense a MacGuffin in the Force. You two could heal each other, you know, and just, you know, I did like the Emperor in it though. I thought like most all of his scenes, I thought it was kind of kooky that he was in it, but it's like, hey, if this is what we're doing now, this is what we're doing.
I mean, he just pretty much said the same shit though. I was hoping he's gonna say some cool new stuff or some sort of big secret or something. Not like a twist or whatever, just like a dark secret or whatever. No,
it was the Emperor's greatest hits, is what it was.
Yeah.
Do it. You know, all of these things have transpired because of, you know,
my design.
Man, next time I design something, I would probably design a system where it had me not dying quite as much.
An entire legion of my best floor tiles awaits you.
He's been busy down there, man. Did you see all them ships? Takes a long time to force build all those ships. Or maybe it was all the mini-me's he had, you know, in his arena. You know,
they're all the Sith guys were just working that shit 24/7.
Yeah, man. He's like, it's like they were the elves, except for like when you die, that's like Sith hell, is you have to go there and build ships.
Now, Sith was a race. Am I wrong? It was an ancient race.
It was an ancient race. I'm trying to remember because the books I was into, I didn't get into a lot of the new Jedi Order ones, or the ones that were like, you know, where they were looking for the ancient Sith tribes and all that.
Yeah. KOTOR talked about it. I cannot remember.
Yeah.
I want to say it was a race, and so something like a Sith trooper who's in red might not. People saw they said, "Oh, he's a Sith trooper, so he must have force powers." I'm like, no, I think there's a whole bunch of damn lackeys, is what this is. They all suck.
Not all of them have lightning fingertips. That's like it's like when the Knights of Ren showed up. It was like, I thought they would be a little bit more. I was expecting a little bit more.
They didn't even have laser nunchucks, man. They
didn't have nothing. I mean, it's like, granted, they were kicking the crap out of Kylo because he was unarmed, but I mean, as soon as he had a blaster and a lightsaber, he was good to go. Yeah,
it's no cool. They had the Vorpal blades, from KOTOR. They used more of them in Solo. They used the Vorpal. Isn't that what they're called, Vorpal blades?
Was that the ones that were kind of like the vibro blades?
Yeah, there's something like that.
It's like it's not as strong as a lightsaber, but it could stop a lightsaber kind of thing.
Yeah, the ones you had in KOTOR, I cannot remember if they might be called vibro blades. It started with a V, but they had those weapons or whatever, but it just wasn't cool, man. Where's my saber chucks?
Yeah, they had the Ray Swiss Army lightsaber that they showed for like 1 second. I wanted to see some more, and all she did by the time you even get going, you're hyped up. She just Baraka screams at him, and she out
flies
the door, and that's over. Yeah, I thought it was going to be a little bit more of like Luke fighting Vader in the cave type thing of but no, they had to have her Kylo fight again. Well, maybe they should have filmed it in slow motion like they did that one, so it would have lasted longer. But I guess they were like, "No, we got shit to do. You got to get this thing going."
I did like the fight on the water. It was pretty damn good.
Yeah, that was the better ones of the ones they had. As far as things go.
And I liked how she looked like she was getting frustrated and she was getting worn out, which would look realistic, like how something would.
Like you could tell she was. I mean, she was probably beaten had Leia not reached out to Kylo and kind of, like you could tell like she was getting tired. He pretty much had the upper hand at that point. He had outlasted her. And then she's just like, fuck this, and kills him, and then apologizes and heals him.
Did you like Han Solo showing up?
I was shocked that I knew he was showing up, but I was shocked that I was like, I'm surprised they got that guy to come back, because he seemed like he did not ever want to come back to do any of those movies. I didn't really, if he would have showed up as a Force ghost, I think it would have been weird, but the fact that he didn't, it was more of just a memory type thing, and he looked normal, I thought was fine. It didn't bother me at all. It was neat that he showed back up, but
What the way I could see it is like, you have a Force vision like Luke saw the city in the clouds. I mean, maybe as the audience, we finally get to see what.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I felt. It was like, it's like a Force vision. Had he shown up as a Force ghost and been like, what over there, squatted on a tree like Ben Kenobi did back in the day, I'd be like, this is weird. But the fact that it was kind of like, he's just kind of coming to peace with his, he's sad his mama died, and and he's sad his daddy died because he stabbed him. I was waiting for him to be like, I'm going to stab you again, even though you're like a ghost, and later on have his coming to Jesus with himself or whatever. But it was visually it was cool, and then him taking the lightsaber and throwing it away, which probably would have helped him later on with those Knights of Ren, but symbolically it made sense for him to chunk it.
So, I've liked Kylo and all of them. I thought that Kylo was awesome in every single one of them, and he was really good.
His scenes were always pretty good, kind of like when in The Last Jedi when he's telling her like, "You're nobody." It's like your parents sold you for food. It's like it sounded realistic, like somebody like that would say something to somebody, which was and in this one they're like they retcon that of like, oh, she was hiding him from the Emperor, and it's like, well, that's weird. That'd been a nice backstory to have some type of interest. That's overall this movie. I think it could have been really good 2 movies if they had done 2 hours for one movie and then broken it up and done, instead of having like a 2 hours and change movie, They had enough stuff going on that they could have easily had 2-hour movies in it. But then it wouldn't be a trilogy, it would be a quadrilogy. And that's the thing. It's like, God, if they hadn't misstepped so much in Last Jedi, they wouldn't have had to do so much. I mean, I guess the interesting thing would be if they had Johnson do this movie. I wonder where he would have went from where he did the last one. You know what I'm saying?
It would have had to, this is only this. We'll talk about the whole trilogy in a second. Let me give you my theory of how you could have done it without bringing back the Emperor. And once you bring back the Emperor, everything stupid happens.
Yeah, it's kind of like, oh, if we're going here, you kind of. And that's the reason why I didn't really have much of a problem with this movie. It was entertaining, and I knew it was going to be stupid right from the get-go because I knew the Emperor's coming back. It was like, oh, this is just silly nonsense at this point, you know, and which is weird to say about a movie about people with laser swords. But it was just kind of like, oh, we've jumped the shark at this point, you know.
Yeah, you would have to start the third one off. Okay, so Kylo has kept losing to her, right? He would have needed to decisively not only done something bad to like Poe or Finn, like maybe kill them, like straight up just get balls to the wall, kill them. He would have had to fuck her up somehow, some way, where even if it was ganging up on her, he would have with the Knights of the Ren or whatever, he would have to fuck her up. She would have to live or been captured, and he was going to force her to turn or some shit. It would have had to been almost like the thing I always think of is like, you remember Clint Eastwood in Fistful of Dollars where his hand gets fucked up and he has to learn to shoot with his left hand.
Yeah.
It would have had to been something like that because she was too OP and she couldn't be fucking stopped. And to kind of bring them back down and really just, you know, there would have to be no redemption at all for Kylo or until he's dead or whatever. That's the only way you really could have gone with it because, you know, if you're just going to bring a surprise villain like Thrawn or Revan out, you're going to impress a couple of people, but the vast majority of the casual audience are going to be like, what the fuck is this?
What the hell is all this?
Yeah.
And where was this 2 movies ago?
Yeah, it's like, well, you know, you can't bring back Darth Vader, and so it had to be the Emperor, and you were forced into a corner. Now, you can say, well, Ryan put him there, but if you look back at the whole trilogy, like I was saying, is like you spent all of this time with Rey and Han Solo in Force Awakens kind of building like this little father relationship. And, you know, Poe and Finn were together, but there wasn't the 3 together. And so you couldn't have where the 3 would get separated if you're going to follow the rhyming rhythm of Empire Strikes Back. And so you're in this weird position. By the time you're at the end of Last Jedi, they haven't even met each other. They haven't worked together. And it's just, if it hadn't been a trilogy, if they'd been standalone movies with like, there could have been sequels. If you had to force this to be a trilogy, it wouldn't work. Especially if the focus was on just Ren and Rey, Kylo Ren and Rey. That would have been 2 movies. Wouldn't that make more sense? A dual movie? It's just no, we got to force trilogies and everything. And then we're going to, what if the Force Awakens fucked up, right? Then you'd have to do 2 more movies, or you have to do a Terminator, restart it again. Or the talk about we're going to make another Aliens, but we're not going to make it after Alien 3. Or an Alien Revelation. We're going to just go back after Alien 2. I'm like, this is dumb. And the trilogy shit needs to go away all the way around. Unless you're going to film all of those movies back to get back into one movie like Lord of the Rings. It's just shit to me.
Well, you could totally tell that there was no overall outline at destination for these 3 movies. Because, I mean, and people are like, well, Lucas was right. He says he had an outline on those movies, but you could, he'll be like, he's writing them. But he had an overall idea of like, we're going from A to C and we're going to have B. And it's like, we're going to, you could tell this was like, we did some stuff in Force Awakens. We dilly-dallied a little bit in Last Jedi. And now we're playing catch up to get where we want to be at the end of this one. It's like there was no overall like helm control of like, well, this is where we're going, and this is why we're doing it, and this is where we need it to be this when he gets here. It's just they could have done. This movie you could have easily not had Last Jedi, edit this movie just a little bit differently, and it would have been 2 fine films to have: Force Awakens and Rise of Skywalker. I mean, without too much trouble, and just completely ignored the last one.
Yeah, the theory was it's like you have to have the bad arc, the middle arc, where shit gets real.
Well, you're trying
bad,
to, all right.
You're trying to go because the red letter media is like, well, what if Empire was a fluke and then Star Wars really wasn't all that? They made the first Star Wars work in editing, like it was actually shit. They made it work in editing, and it
was a fine standalone film. Like they could have never made another one. It would still have been perfectly fine. Because you kind of
looked at it like Jaws. We look at Jaws today.
It's like, well, Darth Vader didn't die, but like he could have been flying around in that thing. They destroyed the Death Star. Maybe one day we'll see Darth Vader again. It's like they could have completely done that, and it still would have been fine. What did you think of Hux turning into like? I like the idea that he wanted. I knew he was going to be the mole, like you could just tell. But I like the fact that he was like he didn't give a shit about the rebels. He just wanted Kylo to lose, and I thought that was funny. And then when he came in there and he's like, they overpowered me, I'm like, they ain't buying that shit. And sure enough, they shot him dead. And I was like, that the one that shot him reminded me of some of the older like Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, like captains and
that was definitely their intention.
It was like, yeah, they wouldn't have been putting up with none of that stupid shenanigans shit. They would have just been like, whatever, fuck you, shot him and killed him. Went on about their business. Like
I like Hux, and he was people like, well, he returned to buffoon in Last Jedi. No, though there was elements of buffoonery in Force Awakens. Went to the, I liked him all the way around. Of course, he has the "you mama" joke. That's where the shit started to turn bad.
Yeah, well, there's.
It's the same. He died so just freaking quickly, but the whole movie was so quick. You got me in there later.
It's like we gotta get rid of this guy, But I did like the fact of like it wasn't like he had a change of heart. He just wanted Kylo to lose so bad. He was like, I don't give a shit if we all lose because of this, It's like, and he was okay with that. I thought that was interesting. I was glad they didn't try to slam in there. You're right. I've been wrong all this time. It was unnecessary. Just get him out of there. Didn't need. It was perfect. Fine the way he went out. He went out exactly like you would kind of expect him to go out anyway,
Yeah.
Somebody being like, enough of this shenanigans, and just blast his ass.
I thought that I've heard from leaks, so I thought that, the First Order was going to turn on the Emperor. I thought that would have been pretty interesting, but I didn't really see that. And I didn't really see, was the First Order hardly even in the damn Imperial fight at the end? I don't think it was.
It didn't seem like it was. It seemed like it was mostly all of his Star Destroyers. And I was wondering if they were going to, like, because I knew they were hooking up 3PO from one of the trailers to something. I'm like, I wonder if they're going to try to, like, hook him up to all of them and try to have him do it. Kind of like in the books, they had the Katana fleet, and it was this fleet that went to hyperspace and, like, everybody on it was either dead or disappeared, but nobody knew where the fleet went because it went to hyperspace alone. And it just like the main ship went to hyperspace and all of them followed it. And I was wondering if, at some point in the books, they tracked down the Katana fleet and the rebels were like, oh, this is exactly what we need to fight whatever baddie was at the time during that series. And, they were fighting Thrawn at that point, I think. And I was like, well, that's kind of interesting. Maybe they could use him to control those ships, but nah, he just conjured up all the people for it. I guess he's like, I got my own people. Screw y'all, New Order people. Y'all can't get shit done. Like,
yeah, we're just you're the first wave.
He was just done with like freaking like Snoke at this point. He had him in jars and shit. I think he was just done at this point. He's like, fuck it, I'll just do it myself. He was trying to step back, let other people do the work, delegate. It wasn't working. He didn't have no freaking, Jar Jars hanging around to like make sure shit got done in the Senate no more. He just was like, I'm going to have to do this.
Of course, now you're like, oh, was that one do it through all of the prequels? But he's just a clone. Was he not even the real one? And what does it mean to be the? What does it mean to be the real one versus the other one? Is there no difference? Well, they would spend all the time.
He was one of those two old guys. The old guys that were following him around in Return of the Jedi that they never said anything about. Maybe he was one of the old guys, and he was doing the Padme of like, the real Emperor's over there in the corner. Maybe.
I think it was the red letter media guys, or Angry Joe is like when he's in the third one, he needs to know it's the senator. He's in a thing flying up. There's like some bald-headed gray woman next to him. Maybe that's who he fucked. To make Ray.
Got to be one of them. It had to be somebody. And I mean, it's like, she's like, you get the impression Ray's like what, like mid-20s, kind of like Luke in A New Hope. So he would have had to have been fucking somebody post Return of the Jedi. So he would have been,
What you Imperial Guards got underneath their robes, guy?
Yeah, I mean, he would have been doing something. Or maybe he was just conjuring up like people to fuck while he was down there on his little planet.
I guess you could, man.
He's done figured it out, man. He can create life, and he's gonna be all of them. Brand. I'm surprised they didn't just be like, oh, she was a clone attempt or something, or maybe he was using. There was no time.
It would have fixed in because remember, she in the Last Jedi, where she was like 14 of her, and they're all snapping together. The clone would have definitely worked there.
Well, that's kind of what I was wondering in Last Jedi when she was doing the whole vision thing in the hole or whatever, and I'm like, get the impression there's a lot of them. Maybe she's a clone. Maybe he was trying to make the perfect clone that for him to either inhabit or to take over.
I'm speaking of, he said to strike him down, right? And so she kills him, right? Okay, so what if he entered her body immediately, and then it was like actually the Emperor that kissed Kylo Ren? It was a gay kiss, all right?
Maybe it was. He wanted some of that diode. Maybe he was like, you don't know what all happened between the Emperor and Vader back in the day. I mean, maybe they did have some relations. And like maybe he was like, I know you're like my lover's great grandson, but like you could make it work, man.
Some of that Plato's and Socrates shit, man.
Yeah, man. Darth plays just the horny. He's going to go through there. He's going to explain it to you.
Star Wars is just going to be on TV for a while, man. If they announce a new Rian Johnson trilogy, I'm like, you know what?
Yeah, I'm good on that. Whatever you got going on, dude. Just what would be funny is they're like, we're going to give you a movie, and he does a what if movie if like Rise of Skywalker never existed, and it was like it's the third movie after Last Jedi, and like just do a what.
You know what? I would see that. That would be so insane. I bet you they'll do this. This shit screams special editions with deleted scenes added into it. At least.
Oh yeah, there's got to be like a 6-hour cut of this movie floating around somewhere, because you could just tell they were like, yeah, we need to trim this down to like fit into like a normal movie window, because I mean it went fast. It was long, but like there was no time to like think about, oh, this is cool, this is not cool, because God, it was just run after the other. There was so much in that movie that I'd completely even forgot about, that I was just like, oh yeah, they did do this, they did do that. It was like just constant things.
I might take that shit you gave me and put it in the description of this video.
I just started going down through there being like, okay, what happened? What? Because like I said, it was just so much shit. I mean, I feel like easily there had to be like a 4-hour cut of this movie somewhere floating around. They're like, yeah, we got to get this down to like 2 hours and change. Because that first like 2 minutes of like, well, I wonder how they're going to introduce Palpatine. Is he going to be like the last third of the movie?
No, the Dead Rise.
Dude, it was like right from the damn get-go. It's like, he's on a planet. Fuck this planet. We don't know who it is. We're just killing people. Why do they have this little Sith thing? Who knows? Fuck it. We're just moving. He's going over there, and he's like, oh, I'm going to, kill freaking the Emperor. It's like, he thinks highly of himself. That he's like, I mean, he can't beat her. So I guess he figured I can go beat this old man, and whoop his ass. I mean, I probably would have made him have a little bit more of an interesting part of like maybe he's looking out for he wants the Emperor for help because he keeps getting his ass whooped. Maybe, like you said, maybe but if it was a lot of stuff, just like we got to do this, we got to do that. Like you could tell when they ran out of Leia film. I thought they did really good for what film they used of her. Like
There's
you couldn't
one
really
where she
tell.
just says no. That one took me out. Because you're paying attention, and Ray gives her a big thing, and she just says no. I'm like, what?
I mean, it's like, I mean, I was all as soon when she finally died, I was just sitting there thinking, it's like she died of a broken heart. Please don't have a droid fly in and say she died of a broken heart or lost the will to live. Whatever they did with their mama, it was like, yeah, that's not necessary. And then they had the Maz Kanata, like I said, she just reminds me of Sophia from Golden Girls, but
she's almost like an insert for Jar Jar or something. She knows a whole lot more than I guess you make a comic book for Maz Kanata.
How she ended up with Luke's lightsaber, obviously Luke had the lightsaber because when they were doing the the flashback when he was training Leia, he had that blue light.
I didn't notice that.
Was
he
it
had
the
green one there? Yeah, I think
you're
he had
right.
the green.
It was the green. And she had a blue. I was thinking that he had the blue one back then too. I can't remember. I just remember them both having lightsabers. And it was interesting that it's like she gave up her lightsaber after she had a vision, which apparently didn't do any good because like she still had a son that went on to be trained, and killed Han and weird.
Well, yeah, no. I guess we'll wrap this up, man. It's been pretty fun talking about nothing, but I just don't see. They need a break. They need a break.
They need a long break. I think them stopping for a while, and I honestly thought they would have wrapped up this series, like because the way they advertised it, like this is the end of the Skywalker saga. They left a lot open to come back to. She's got a new lightsaber, which I didn't really like the new lightsaber. It looked like a little one-handed, and it being yellow, I didn't give a crap. I thought she would ended up with like some type of staff saber because clearly she was real good.
That
at
was
staffs.
her. Yeah, that was her. I thought so too.
I thought it was weird that she even turned it on. She's like, "I'm going to bury these out here in the dirt," and then she turns on hers like, "Haha, I have one." And and then the lady shows up like, "Who are you? Who the hell is that lady just wandering the freaking desert, just asking people random shit?"
See now all grannies, man.
I mean, it's like she just was like showed up. It's like, what the hell do you give a shit? Apparently, she's like, nobody's been here forever, and it's like, why the hell are you out here? But and then she like steals their identity, being like, I'm going to be a Skywalker now. It's like, really? It's like, do you have to? Why not just make up a name? She could have been like, I'll go be Ray Solo or Ray Kanaka.
Ray Kanaka. Just one quick talk to people who's been listening to this. We're going to have a bonus podcast talking about miscellaneous Star Wars, some of the prequels and stuff like that. That's going to be coming up on the next episode. So tune in, and we're out.